Welcome to ACF United, Culinary Communications, Best Practices for Chefs in Food Writing, Demos, Marketing, and Culinary Media Skills. Thank you, chefs, for joining us today from across the country for this important discussion. American Culinary Federation represents the largest association of professional chefs in North America, including you, our culinary media chefs and food writers. We know that our food service industry is facing an unprecedented crisis. We have all been impacted by COVID-19 in many ways, and there will still be challenges ahead. Today, we'll discuss how food media, food styling, recipe development may offer alternative culinary careers for chefs working in traditional restaurant and culinary roles. Our distinguished panelists will be sharing best practices on how your skills can translate into new areas of opportunity in the food service industry. And now I'd love to welcome our panelists and have them introduce themselves. Chef Jennifer Booker, would you please start us off?
Sure thing. So I'm Chef Jennifer Booker, go by Chef Jen Booker. Excited to be here. Haven't worked in a while like many of you, so I got to actually dress up and put on earrings today. So I'm feeling pretty geeked up about it. A little bit about myself. I've been in the industry over 20 years, and I'd say the last 7 have been focused mainly on writing, culinary writing. I have 2 cookbooks, Fil Piece to Foie Gras and Dinner Deja Vu. I have a website, a blog, similar to everyone on the panel. And my newest gig is Impact Fellow for the James Beard Foundation, which means in a pre-COVID world, I travel the country and I teach chefs, culinary students, home cooks how to run a no-waste kitchen. And as I said, I'm excited to be here. Hopefully I can help your career go a little smoother and avoid some of the bumps that I went over.
Well, thank you so much, Chef. Thank you for being here. And Chef Emily Ellen.
Unmute myself. Hi everyone, Chef Emily Ellen here. I'm known as the Retro Rad Chef on the Food Network because I take the old, I remix it and make it new through retro redos. And I am cooking my way across the world virtually right now, like Jen and everyone else in the group. I do have the blogs and the social presence and what have you. I don't have a book yet, but I use my website and a lot of the brands that I represent as a resource to share my recipes. I am a brand ambassador for quite a few brands. My probably my longest, I guess, standing brand that I represent is Frigo Cheese. They are the oldest Italian American cheese company. So I'll talk a lot about them and their tactics, as well as some of the other brands I represent during the conference, so that you can hear kind of the strategies that other people are using. Let's see. I am a new mom, and that's what's keeping me busy during all this COVID. It was a blessing in disguise to get to stay home and quarantine with that little guy who's almost a year old. But I will, without further ado, share the stage with all my other chef friends. Thanks guys for tuning in. I heard there's almost 500 of us on tonight, or today.
All right, well, thank you so much. And Chef Sean O'Neill, please.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Chef Sean O'Neill. I am the winner of season 7 of MasterChef, author of the cookbook, My Modern American Table. Ever since then, I've been traveling the world. We've done, I say we, my wife is my booking manager, but we've done events in 11 countries at this point, over 30 states and over 150 events since winning MasterChef in 2016. So one of the things that I've really fallen in love with is being able to get on stage and really teach new recipes and teach techniques and things of that nature. A little bit pretty well versed in the cookbook writing categories. I'm working on a new version of My Modern American Table now. So we're pretty far along on that. So a lot of projects in the work. COVID definitely shut me down. I had, I think, 13 events canceled around the world, 2 trips to Europe for events over there. So I mean, we're all feeling the brunt of this. It's affected every single aspect of the food world, from street carts to Michelin star restaurants. Every single person that works in the industry is dealing with this right now. So I'm very excited to be here to kind of dive into some of these ways to help chefs at home kind of get into more of the cookbook aspect, the social media aspect, and super stoked to be with these amazing chefs on this panel.
All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Chef El Simone.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elle. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Boston. I am one of the cast members, if you will, of America's Test Kitchen on PBS. I have been in the culinary media field for over 10 years, starting as culinary production assistant, working on TV shows behind the scenes, to culinary producing shows, to food styling, which I currently still do. I'm a food stylist. I have a hi Jeffrey, thank you for the shout out. I have a podcast launching in August called The Walk-In. So it's very exciting. I hope you all look out for it. I'm also the founder of She Chef, which is a professional networking organization for women chefs of color and our allies. We are actually launching soon our incubator program for 2021. And I'm really excited about that, about amplifying the voices of women chefs. I stand in complete solidarity of the Black Lives Matter organization and their power movement right now. And I wish everyone a peaceful and safe, existence right now, as much as you possibly can.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for being here. I'm going to go around with just a quick fire question before we get into some of the questions that have been submitted in advance. And of course, for those of you who are tuning in, we do have the chat function and the Q&A function. So feel free to chat with your friends and collaborate in that chat. And if you have any questions for the panel, we will try to get to those as well. And you can submit those through the Q&A function. So I'll come around then. Chef Al, since you're on my screen, I was wondering if you might be able to share what your first job in food service was.
Wow. Okay. So my first job in food service was with Darden Corporation, which I have many Darden friends affiliated with ACF. So that's super exciting. I was probably, I think the first job, I was a hostess. And I did that for many years, and then just kind of moonlighted between prep kitchen and hostessing. So that was my first. Oh no, that wasn't my first job. My first job was actually working in a kosher bakery in Oak Park, Michigan. My first job was baking kosher desserts in the community. That was my first job, actually, making kugels. That's my first job.
I love it. I love it. Okay, wonderful. And so next we'll go to Chef Jennifer.
So if you don't count selling Girl Scout cookies, which my mother was the head of her region, and she had us out there hustling, pushing those cookies. After that, I was in charge of the salad bar at Ponderosa Steakhouse. I was very proud of this job. And then in college, I was actually at Godfather's Pizza. And it was a great job because we also ate a lot of pizza, my roommates and I. So it helped, help supplement my college money, I'll put it that way. Both of which prepared me for this career. And obviously, I love the food system because I'm still in it all these years later.
Wonderful. Okay, and we'll come to Chef Emily and your first food job.
Well, a ways around the food system. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and it was actually a Christmas tree farm, but long story short, Christmas trees weren't always successful, and we ended up having cattle. So we had cows and chickens and big gardens. And my dad, who had a construction company, every phase of the job would do a big appreciation dinner for all the workers, or a lunch. And he would grill up burgers and steaks and just bring in food from a caterer. And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? We have cows, we have beef, we have all this food. Like, can I maybe make the sides at least, you know, we like big salads or something. And so at age 12, I like wrestled my way into having that job. And I used to cater all the construction company meals. And then I think I like the youngest catering company, we got rid of the other catering company. We kicked him out, and then I had it. And from there, I used to cater all the company parties. And as a little scrapper, I started soliciting all the subcontractors that they needed me to cook for their parties. And before you knew it, I had a catering company. Probably totally illegal, I'm sure. I mean, I was 12 years old, so minor detail.
I love it. Chef Sean, I know that you come from an unconventional background into food, so I'd love to hear about your first job in food.
A little different. I was a DJ for almost 20 years before jumping into this new and much harder food industry. But honestly, my early jobs were in restaurants, in kitchens. So my first job was in the industry and underneath the golden arches. So that was a cashier at, I think, 15. You know, small town, you want to get out and get that burger money on your own. But then I actually worked at a restaurant called Raintree Restaurant. And I was there for washing dishes for maybe 2 weeks, and then somebody quit, and the owner of the restaurant actually lived in the restaurant. So it was one of those type of situations. A very small place, but it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about hard work. It taught me a lot about falling in love with food. And I did that for a couple years, recruited all my friends to come and work there as dishwashers, and then eventually quit as dishwashers because it's a tough gig. So I had a couple early on restaurant gigs and things like that. And then obviously full circle comes around to, you know, the DJing, still being in hospitality, just kind of a different aspect of hospitality, and now back where I love to be, and that's with food.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, Chef Melissa Gray has also joined us, and we're so excited to have you here. Melissa, I was wondering, I'm going to give you a double barrel question then, and I was wondering if you could tell the viewers, you know, about yourself and what you do in the industry, and then also what your first job in food service was. So,
all right. Hi, everyone. Melissa here. I am a recipe developer and a food stylist for Meredith Corporation in their Birmingham, Alabama office, which Meredith Corporation does not mean a lot to a lot of people, but Food and Wine, Southern Living, Health, Real Simple. Those are just some of the brands that I work on, developing recipes and also styling for them. I've been in the restaurant industry since I was about 16. Kind of sneak in. My first job was at a bakery, which is such a long shot away from what I do now, it feels like. But I worked at a small bakery in my hometown in Florida. I was on like sandwich and salad duty, and I would make like sunburnt cookies. Like those are my earliest memories. And it was a lot of fun. I was doing that at the same time. I was attending a Pro Start program in high school. So I was in the bakery and also in culinary school in high school at the same time. I graduated from the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park in 2014. And I've been in the publishing side of food for about 5 years now. All behind the scenes, so this is very different for me being up front and in front of the camera here. I'm usually behind it. And in my 5 years, I've developed about 1,300 original recipes and styled in just over 200 photo shoots. So I'm so honored to be here with everyone else and just happy to talk about what we all love.
Well, awesome. Well, we are so glad that you are here too. So let's jump into our first question. And I'm going to pose it to Chef Emily. And I was wondering if you could let us know how you use social media professionally, and what are some social media rules?
Pre or post COVID?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay. Or, oh, this is interesting. How about post Black Lives Matter and having that come out as like something that we all need to stand for and really have our voices heard? And right now, what's going on is not right, and we should use our voice. And here I am, Zoom, listen up, talk to your community. This is a chance to like not just Blackout Tuesday on your social, but really talk to your friends, and get out there. We've been marching every day, masks on and marching for all of our rights and all of our friends. So yeah, funny enough, now that I'm on a soapbox, I saw like a really great post that a brand did in light of the protest, and they said like, we stand, it was in essence, it was, here we stand united supporting our friends, our colleagues, our partners. It was from from a hotel group. So they said, and from all of our guests, or for all of our guests coming in. And so I forwarded it to a lot of marketing companies that I work with or that I know. And I said, hey, this is great. Like, I haven't seen any your brand presence, like saying or doing anything. Like, here is a real simple way. If you're behind the movement, please use your voice. I don't know why you wouldn't be behind the movement. Like, this is your chance to like show support and then do something. And I had so many marketing companies come back to me and say, well, if the brand is not going to be active in participating, then it was something like, I mean, this just came across my desk like last night. So I was like dumbfounded. Then we're not going to do anything. And I said, well, I sent him a picture of the signs that I had just made from that day. And I said, well, I'm not going to stay silent. So if you ask me to, I'm going to be posting regardless, and I'm going to be using my voice on social, and I'm going to be hitting the streets. So I think that's very interesting that, that there is, in light of any situation, good, bad, indifferent, there are rules. What? I am going to take the stance, and I think, I'm sure the panel will agree with me, that if it is your authentic voice and you are saying it, then say it loud and proud, and like wave whatever flag or show whatever recipes, or, you know, have your hair a little tousled in the kitchen behind the scenes and showing people what you're doing, because I think that it's very important to show the backstories too on how you're getting there. So regardless of rules, I think it is very important to not just show like the dressed up sides of us. I mean, I too, Jennifer, was really happy to put on makeup today and like get dolled up, because I hadn't for a while. I've been taking pictures behind the scenes and I haven't been able to like, you know, be myself, but wear my best self, you know. But I do really believe, I don't know, maybe I digressed off the subject a bit, but I think no matter what, when you are sharing on social media, you should be very authentic to yourself. And in essence, that will be authentic to your brand. Now, if you're representing a brand, I understand they have authentic voices too. And there's, you have to be respectful. And so keeping a professional and a personal page on some platforms is important. But I am my brand, and I am happy to fly all my flags very openly across the board. And I'm very clear with that for all the brands that I represent. They know who I am, and they know that that's what I'm going to do. So,
all right.
That's what I have.
Thank you very much. And Chef Jennifer, I was wondering, because I know that you have a great social media presence as well. So I'm wondering if you have any tips for how the viewers might be able to enhance their personal brand.
Sure. Emily is right. You have to be authentic. I think where she and I differ, just because it's just a hard blur, is a public or business social media presence and a personal social media presence. I found are impossible to keep separate. And so I find that what I say is going to affect my brand, Chef Jennifer Hill Booker, as well as any other brands that I partner with. And not to say that I'm not going to say what I believe and what I feel, because I absolutely will. Just knowing that they are very much connected, and just be mindful of that. Like, think about what you say before you tweet it, because those who know me well know I have a bit of a temper sometimes. And so I've learned to, read that comment that just blows your head off, and before I shoot it response right away, I give it some thought, because pictures and tweets and comments, they just never go away. So to stand for what you believe in your personal life, if you're being authentic, then it's definitely part of your business life as well. So I agree with Emily on that. I would say for social media, be consistent. What I have found is you have to go and post or make a comment or share a recipe every single day. Because if you think about the billions of people that are your potential audience, they're hitting that timeline at different times. And so you may tweet at 3 in the afternoon. Someone may be looking at that at 9 o'clock their time or 2 a.m. their time. So if you hit it at least every day, then chances are people are seeing it constantly. So you want to make sure that you do that. Be consistent. Also be mindful of your voice, because we all know, everyone on the panel, that it's a lot of work to be consistent on your blog and your website and social media and your real job that helps you make money and pay the mortgage. So you may think, I'll hire someone, because there are companies that will post for you. And what I found is you are the best judge of your voice and your brand and your message. So if you do hire someone to help you out, make sure that they are using your words, because you don't want to look back and think, well, I never said that, but it's out there, and that's who people believe you to be. So be consistent, be authentic, use your voice, and build your audience. Because for me, it was a matter of deciding, with all my life experiences, who were the people that I wanted to talk to, and who did I resonate with, and who resonated with me. And those are the groups of people which can overlap. It's, not to say I can only talk to Black women, right? Or mothers or military families. I can talk to them all, but it has to be an authentic conversation and an audience that we resonate with each other. So find your audience. Go out there, put your food out there. What did Emily say? Fly your flag. Who decides they like that flag? That truly may be your audience, and then you can grow from there and grow your business from there.
Excellent. And also on the same subject, to Chef Ellen, then I'll open it up to anyone who wants to kind of talk about this, is I was wondering if you might be able to share some tools that you use to leverage social media to generate traffic or even potential revenue.
Sure. I wanted to just kind of add to that really good, beefy, vital information that the chefs just offered. In terms of brand affiliation, I think it's really important that if you are considering or interested in, associating yourself with a brand or building a relationship with a brand as it relates to social media, it's really good to find out from the very beginning how they feel about certain things that you might be particularly passionate about, because brand identity isn't just like limited to like what you're selling, like the cheese or the meat or the whatever. It's also selling like ethics and ideology to some degree, so like I wouldn't bother to partner with a brand that didn't share my ethics overall, right? So just being aware of what that is, like what they stand for. Is it in alignment with your moral compass? Because if so, odds of you having any issues when something like the current climate, be it a health pandemic, whether you don't agree with the political climate, is if you are already kind of in alignment, it's not you won't find yourself clashing. You won't have to revisit it or decide to discontinue the relationship. So just keeping that in mind. As far as tools, Jennifer mentioned consistency. One of the tools, or a couple of tools I use for consistent posting when I'm being consistent, is I use Hootsuite, and Hootsuite is cool because you can schedule your post. You can like put the picture up, you can create the caption, you can schedule when you want it to post to your social media. So like if you're like me, I might take one day a week, sometimes it's a Sunday evening, and I'll just create like 5 or 6 captions. Like I have a ton of pictures. Like don't ever feel like you have to use all the great photos that you take as soon as you take them. I take pictures of everything. I might post a picture that looks like it was from yesterday and it was from a WCR conference 2 years ago. But it's just having enough content, you know, to kind of go around. So I'll schedule a bunch of posts, and then I'll schedule them for when I want them to come out. And it kind of takes the weight off me. I can just choose one day to do that. I also use an app called Unum, UNUM. I use this app because it allows me to do more. Like Hootsuite has a cap on how many planned posts you can do. Unum, I think it gives you 15 squares you can plan out. You could pay for a package. That's for free. If you pay for a package, you can get like 30 squares that you can plan out, 60, something like that, some large number. So I like to use those because sometimes I get busy in the week and I don't remember to post. So if I do just spend some time planning, scheduling posts, then I can kind of be hands off and they can go on their own. I also don't have a personal and private, a personal and professional Instagram. There's one for She Chef and then there's one for me, but I consider myself a brand. So there's both. And my personal is actually kind of more open. But in terms of posting, I don't post everything that I feel strongly about. And the way that I govern my social media is that I give the world as much as I want them to have, right? So I give a lot though, you know, so people never feel like they're missing something about me or there's something hidden about me that they don't know. I give a little bit of everything, but I do keep a lot for myself. So I think one rule to being successful, not just in media, because it applies there, but also in social media, is always to remember to keep some of yourself for yourself. You know, you don't have to give the outside world everything for them to love you or to follow you or to be interested in what you do. Save some of yourself for yourself. That way you always have boundaries, always drawing a line. And even when you associate with brands, you know, if you feel like something is, if they're pushing a boundary, don't be afraid to say no, because there are a million brands out here. You can always get another brand to associate with, but staying true to yourself, creating boundaries, keeping some of yourself for yourself, planning and scheduling your posts, using those apps. Those are all great ways to generate traffic, being consistent, you know, getting consistent viewership. I mean, and as far as using, and when you do those things, brands get attracted to you, and that's how you start to generate revenue.
Excellent information. Thank you so much. And I think, Melissa, we're about to come into food styling in just a moment, but I didn't know if any of the panelists might want to take on just quickly something about, you know, there's trolls and haters out there, and I know that all of you are not immune either from, you know, you put out the best things you can. Chef O'Neill, you're on my screen. Do you have any advice for, you know, it's hurtful. I know when
it can be hurtful if you let it be hurtful. You have to understand that there is a lot of idiots out there. I've dealt with death threats. I've dealt with people saying they would pay untold amount of money to stab me in the neck. I've dealt with threats against my wife. I've dealt with everything under the sun you can think of. At the end of the day, if you're good at what you do, you're going to have people that don't like you. I mean, that's a fact. That's everybody who's ever been successful has a line of people behind them that want to be where they are, right? You have to take it with a grain of salt. You know, if it's an attack on something stupid, you know, these people will never meet you. These people will probably never know the real you. So either ignore them or handle it with grace, and, you know, give them a compliment back. And you know, a buddy of mine today going back into kind of the situation that's happening, a buddy of mine today posted that he went and bought a $20 gift certificate for Starbucks, right? You know, that those little acts of kindness, he's a Hispanic man. He gets harassed all the time. I talk to him all the time about this. Those little acts of kindness can kind of turn those trolls around sometimes, not all the time, because some people just have evil in their heart, right? Some people are just garbage. Like, it's just a matter of life. That's what we deal with. So I think small acts of kindness are just completely ignoring, you know, the block button was invented for a reason. There's no reason to bring your brand, yourself, your morals and down to somebody else's level. It's just, there's just not any reason for that. And I will be the first to admit, when it first started for me, I went on the defensive, and I would, you know, try to say all these great things that I've done in my life and with charities and all this type of crap, right? To try to prove something. At the end of the day, I don't need to prove anything to anybody. At the end of the day, I need to be myself and be the best version of myself. So, and I think that reflects well on social media, and that goes back to being authentic. If you're being the best version of yourself, you really don't care if somebody that doesn't even have a screen profile image is talking trash about you. Right? Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, thank you for that advice. I know a big part of social media and blogs and a lot of other ways that you can brand yourself is going to come into those great pictures of your food. And I know, Melissa, I'm wondering if you might be able to address some best practices for the chefs who are watching who can improve the photos of their food. And also, we had some questions that were curious just what a day in the life of your role looks like. So I'm wondering if you could let us know a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Day in the life right now is being at home. Lots of cooking from home and realizing how tiny my apartment kitchen really is. That's most of what my life is at the current moment. But when I'm back in the office, honestly, it's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of, you know, fine tuning, using those skills that, you know, you either got in culinary school or in the restaurant, you know, things that I learned working the line that still apply, how to fix sauces, you know, things that go wrong. Troubleshooting is a lot of what I do, is troubleshooting why something's not working and how to get it to that place that you really want it to be. I, you know, work with a great team of people that are just as creative and just as wonderful. And that's honestly one of the biggest pieces of advice I can say is surround yourself with people that are creative and are going to build you up and are going to push you and, you know, help take your food and your material and your brand where you want it to be, because it's not something we can do alone. And I think all of us know that we need that kind of group of people, whether it's friends or fellow chefs or colleagues, pushing us further into, you know, making great content, which is what we want to do. When I'm on set, it's, you know, working with a prop stylist. We have a great team here working with photographers who are wonderful and, you know, a lot of times I think make me look a lot better than I think I was capable of food-wise, and wonderful to work with them. But I think some of the biggest tips that I can give is to be critical of yourself, you know, be critical of what you're putting down there. And at the same time, remember that it's just food. You know, I've kind of been in both situations where I've stared at something for what feels like hours and I just can't see it anymore. I can't see clearly what's happening. I can't see the food. I can't see the message that I'm trying to get across with, you know, the plate or the cake or whatever it may be. So remember that it is just food. Sometimes you do just need to take a step back. Remember that this is something that you love, something that you enjoy, to find joy in that moment and not just get stressed out because that icing drip is not falling exactly where you want it. But a lot of what I've learned kind of in my years doing this is it's a lot like being an artist, you know, the color compositions, you know, does this corner of the photo feel too heavy? Where is your eye being drawn first? So that would be my biggest piece of advice is, you know, when you start taking these photos for, you know, social media, for your blog, you know, really try to look at it from an artist's perspective of, are things too cluttered? Do these colors coordinate? Do they complement? You know, is what I want someone to look at what they're going to look at first, or are they being distracted by other things or by the garnishes? I know you know, my biggest pet peeve is garnishes in a row. And that's the thing that I always am looking at is, you know, are there 5 pieces of green onion that have made a straight line across? Because that's all I'll see. And you'll find little things like that, but just remembering it's art, but it's also joy, and to enjoy what you're doing and to be critical of yourself, but also remember that, you know, at the end of the day, it's food.
Thank you very much. And Chef Al, I was wondering, since we're hearing these tips about the profession, I was wondering if you might be able to address any myths about the culinary media profession. You know, I know there's a lot of stress involved and a lot of hours. And so I was wondering if you might be able to share with those who are looking to potentially make a change to this career.
Yes. I think there are lots of myths. I think for one, people think it's easy. You know, people feel like if they can do a YouTube channel, then they can do TV, and they're totally different. Not to say that you can't do it, but you should go into it knowing that it's 2 different beasts. Let me see, where's some of the other myths? Some people think that everyone can be a food stylist. That is not true. Just, you can plate well, you can plate like a rock star, but does that mean you're a food stylist? No, it does not. You know, I don't know, Melissa, if you agree, you know, please back me up. Because some people don't. I made a statement.
I'm with you. It's something we can all aspire to do, definitely, but yes, plating and styling are different worlds entirely, for sure.
They're different worlds. I made a comment one time in an article. Someone quoted me, and then someone revisited it and in their presentation at a conference. And my statement was, every food stylist is a chef, but not every chef is a food stylist. And I've had people argue me down about that, but it is true. You cannot be a food stylist if you don't have a full understanding of food. You need that culinary training. You need it. You can't skip it. There are some, even those food stylists who aren't like core food people, maybe they went to art school, they still had some culinary studies. Even if it was just like a basic food study, you need to know how food operates. You need to know timing, temperature, how food reacts to light, to heat, to cold. Like, you got to know what coagulation is to even be a food stylist, because that's going to happen no matter what you do. But anyway, you know, you can't just jump into, you know, culinary media. It does really require having an understanding of food. Even being a culinary producer, you have to have an understanding of food and how it works as a science. It is very different to watch a TV show happen than it is to be on a TV show. I learned that because as a culinary producer, even working on a production team, like a culinary production assistant, it was very different, a completely different experience to be behind the camera making a show happen than it is to be in front of a camera making the show happen. The expectations are vastly different. I'm shy, so I'm not going to say you can't be shy and do the job. You can absolutely be shy and do the job. You just, you know, you kind of just have to have a passion for it. I did not have a passion for being on television. It was not my original desire. It had not even crossed my mind, honestly, before I got it. I was very happy in the production world, but I really love it. And you have to be able to take criticism, you know, be critiqued consistently, you know, so that you can improve. And more importantly, if you want to be in the culinary media world, be open-minded, you know, because you might have one intention. Like, my intention after culinary school was to go back to a restaurant. But after interning at the Food Network, I got to see culinary media. And so I've done a lot of different things in culinary media. Like, I've tested recipes for for magazines. I've developed recipes for magazines. I've written articles. You know, if you're open-minded, you can really thrive in the culinary media world, because you'll learn that you can flex a lot of muscles. There's a lot of ways to generate revenue. There's lots of fun and interesting jobs you can have. So, you know, be open-minded, because the thing you think might be for you might not be the thing for you. I just knew I would just be a world-renowned food stylist, right? And, you know, maybe I am, I don't know. But, you know, I am more known for being on a TV show, which is something I never aspired towards. So, you know, be open-minded if you want to come into the world of culinary media. And it's hard to get into. So, like, if you know someone, don't be afraid to volunteer. A lot of volunteer work. I know nobody wants to be volunteering right now where unemployment is at an all-time high. But if there's an opportunity, you know, volunteer your time. That's how you want to learn. If you want to be a food stylist, you need to apprentice. You know, you could take some courses and you can find your own way, but I guarantee you it's a longer road to success that way. So, you know, apprentice for pay if they offer, volunteer some time just to learn, meet photographers, meet people in the field that you think you might be interested in, so you can know. A day in a life stage situation still applies in culinary media. It doesn't change because you're out of the restaurant. You still need to be staging, you still need to be apprenticing.
Wonderful, excellent advice. I think that the next topic that we're going to jump into, I know we have some accomplished authors on the panel as well. And I know it's something that a lot of the viewers aspire to. Chef Booker, I'm going to come to you first. I have a lot of specific questions that came in, but I'm wondering if you can just kind of speak to us about how you were inspired for the topics of both of your books and sort of how that process works. And then Chef O'Neill, if you would like to jump in right after that'd be great. And then anyone else.
Well, aspiration for my first cookbook was really to share with the world my history and my culture and food legacy, which is the Deep South. My family is from the Mississippi Delta. And for whatever reason, and we could talk about that on another panel, Southern food, Black food, soul food gets beat up. And, you know, it is vilified as being just, I call it grease and gravy. And I wanted the world to know how healthy and beautiful and elegant soul food and Southern cuisine really is. And I think it was Emily saying that she grew up on a farm. And so we have that in common, the farm. I didn't grow up there, but my family has a farm in the Mississippi Delta, a little town in Charleston, Mississippi. So I grew up around food and knew firsthand how beautiful it is. And so I wrote that book to chronologe the history of my family and our food journey, our culinary journey, which tied into where we came from, what we grew, what we ate, the love that was around it. And it was well received. And I took, you know, we talked about being authentic and having your voice and just telling the story of this is who I am and this is where I come from. And this is what we ate while doing so. And I was just very pleased and proud. And I will tell everyone who aspires to write a cookbook, and Sean touched on this, it's like having a baby. And anyone who has a baby, people say, oh, your baby's cute. Even if it's not cute, they say, oh, your baby's so cute. If you have a cookbook, which feels like having a baby, if people don't like it, they will say your book is ugly or stupid, or I don't like your recipe. So know that going in, write it for yourself to share your food and your message. And just being the temperament of who I am, maybe a little competitive, I wrote Fill Piece of Foie Gras to tell my family story. And I wrote Dinner Deja Vu so that I would not be a one-hit wonder, okay? And it also has more of the Southern aspect of my cooking style. You have to have recipes. Who was it? Elle, who says you need to test your recipes. You need to know that they work. You need to know that people don't have an oven that really heats to 500 degrees, so that shouldn't be your number one direction in your recipe. You need to make sure that it's consistent, right? The recipe is set up and written exactly the same, every single recipe, every single page. and know that it will take a solid length of time. I think the hardest for us as chefs or food service professionals, culinary students, we don't have a lot of time to always sit at the computer and crank out those recipes like we need to do. So know that you're gonna have to carve out a lump of time. And my first cookbook, I had to turn it in right after the Christmas holidays. So I would be up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning when the family was asleep, typing recipes because I had a deadline and I had to turn it in. Decide your topic, do some research. Is everyone talking about pinto beans or sweet potatoes or chicken wings or Asian fusion? Chances are we don't need another cookbook like that. So do your research ahead of time. And we could talk about cookbooks forever, but hopefully I touched on a few points that will help our listeners.
And then the initial question was inspiration, right? That was inspiration for the book was the initial.
Yes, inspiration.
Okay. So inspiration for me was definitely not as deep as Chef Booker. Mine's not quite the family story. It's really just a lot of stuff that I've liked to eat over the years. My first book was a little bit different, though. It was part of the prize package for winning MasterChef. So my next one that I'm working on, I can't go into a lot of details because you know how the secrecy is in the industry when you're working on something like a book or a show or anything like that. But what I can say is the next one is hyper focused. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for right now is something that is kind of focused on, they want to be an expert, let's say pizza, right? They want to really learn a lot about pizza or a lot about that style. So the next one that I'm working on is very hyper focused. It's things from around the world, but it's things that we all share in common and how it's done kind of differently here in the States, which kind of ties into my first book, which is My Modern American Table. So I think that's important too, is also finding consistency throughout your books, right? Whether it's just the style of your book, as Chef Booker mentioned, you know, every recipe being the exact same way. You know, when I first started writing my cookbook, I wasn't anywhere near adept at writing recipes. Now I feel like I'm an expert at it because I do it the exact same way every single time, right? And the way that I do it is clear, right? So if you find that right way that works for you, that's clear for your audience, don't change it, right? You stick with that. But inspiration comes from everywhere. I mean, I travel a lot and I'm always open and receptive to different opportunities when I travel. I try to eat with families if I can. I find that knowing about a place before you get to a place and having a little bit of knowledge on that place, it kind of helps locals open up to you more so you can get that inside info. So I think inspiration really, really comes at any time, at any place. It's really how open are you to putting what you saw or what you experienced onto a plate with your own style, right? And I think that's what makes a great cookbook, right? Or what makes an amazing recipe is still having that resemblance of, I know this flavor, or I know this technique, but this is new, right? This has opened my eyes. Example I'll use is I do a squid ink and lobster ravioli, and every single time I say the word squid ink, people are like, oh my goodness, no, it's gross. And I'll be honest with you, if you eat it raw, it's gross, right? It's disgusting. It smells like the bottom of the ocean. Sorry for my dog barking. But if you put it in a form where people are used to it, they're familiar with it, everybody's had a ravioli, you're so much more receptive. So I think that's where great recipes and great cookbooks come in, is by showing people something they're familiar with, but in a really whole new, exciting way.
All right, I love it. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to share about food writing or recipe development or their inspiration?
I'll say a couple things. I think all these comments are so wonderful. And I think it is really key to know your strengths. So if you're not strong in food styling, you'll hire a food stylist. You can develop the recipes and you might be very type A and be able to test and retest and have a very clear recipe, but then presenting it may not be your flair. And then in turn, also food photography. I food style and I'm a chef, but I hold up the camera and I'm taking a picture of myself. I can't do it. I'm very honest with that I am not a food photographer. And it does take a totally different eye for food photography and food styling and being aware. And then I also want to comment, I think it's been really interesting watching people produce books and publish during the process of being at the stay at home. And I've been very fortunate to be able to read a lot of manuscripts during this time. And I think it's so fascinating, speaking of tools, some of the tools that we have out there now to market our books. So Amazon, I think, is one of the best platforms right now for just like jumpstarting. And I'm very interested in, when I have a book in the future, to learn the tricks of the trade. I didn't realize that you could have this book launch, kind of a pre-book launch, give them the ebook. It propels you to #1 on Amazon. I didn't know these like hidden things. So, and I don't pretend to, but those of you in the chat, they're all very interested in writing books. So I encourage you to look at some of those tricks of the trade and ask people who have published. And I'm wondering if any of the other panelists have some of those hidden tips up their sleeves.
I want to chime in one more thing on starting the cookbook process. Your proposal is big. Your proposal is really setting the tone for what that book is going to be. It's going to set the tone for what that book's going to look like. It's going to set the tone for really everything that's going to come next, right? So, get a folder together, start piling recipes together, start piling pictures that you just like, right? You just like this picture because you like the style of it, or you like the feel of it. It catches you somewhere emotionally, right? So starting with this proposal, a cookbook proposal, really not only sells it to a publisher, or maybe not even a publisher, right? Because you can take that proposal and turn it from a proposal into an ebook very easily. But really taking the time to develop a great cookbook proposal is going to set the tone for what is to come. So, we think of a lot of that stuff. It's a business plan at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's the same thing as setting up a restaurant or setting up anything else. You're creating a business plan for the book that is to come.
John, really quick, someone's asking about a food photographer to follow. And will you remind us about the food photographer who did your first book? I think he's
Yeah, Andrew Purcell. And I saw that. I was actually going to type in that. His name's Andrew Purcell. Him and his wife, Carrie Ann Purcell, are phenomenal. Andrew does the photography and Carrie Ann does the styling, and they literally climbed inside my brain, and like before I could say what I wanted, knew exactly the way that book should look. So those guys are great. Honestly, I mean, this one's really fancy, but Nathan Mervold does some of the most crazy, exciting food photography that you'll ever see. Granted, none of us can really replicate that because it's kind of a science lab version of food photography. But if you want to be inspired, that's one guy to really look into.
Jackie, I wanted to answer a few of the questions I saw in the comments about how do you apprentice for food stylists. And I want to tell people that what I did was I went to LinkedIn. I did some searching for food stylists in New York City. I sent them my resume, an email with my resume, and told them what my intentions were in a cover letter. I'm looking to apprentice, assist, either for free or for pay if you need it. Here's my credentials. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And then like being consistent. Like whenever I would do some work that looked good on camera, I would like add it to my email or create a link that I've done. I did a lot of practicing at home. So I had like lots of home photos that you could tell they weren't professional, but you could get an idea of my skill set. In terms of freelance writing for magazines and whatnot, Sometimes I just reach out to the publication and say, hey, are you all taking any submissions, especially when something is like really going on in the world, or, you know, or it's ramp season and you have an amazing ramp recipe, or your grandmother made an amazing blah, blah, blah. You know, you can write to them and say, hey, are you, you know, I would love to contribute. Do you have a freelance list? You know, how can I go about sending in submissions? A lot of it for me is just like cold calling, like blind reach. If I see a publication that I fall in love with, I'm like, I want to write for them. I want to style for them. Let me reach out and see, you know, what that looks like for them. Do they need to search me out? Sometimes people are very happy to have a food stylist or a writer reach out. You know, that means they don't have to go looking for you. You know, you're kind of putting yourself out there, and maybe it doesn't come through the first time around, but more times than not, the immediate no's turned into them reaching out to me later for a different thing. You know, you have to be aware of like what people reach out to you for. You know, I went through a time where I was like getting approached about talking about what it's like to be a Black woman and, you know, an underrepresented person in the culinary industry. And it's good to give that information, but like, I didn't want to become overwhelmed with making that the only message people receive from me, because there's so much more to my experience in the culinary industry that of course is correlated to that, because I'm a Black woman and I can't take that off. Not that I would if I could, but you know, there are other parts to it. Like, what is it like to work in a restaurant that serves food that you never made before? Like, what did that feel like, you know? So, you know, just make sure that you don't get pigeonholed into any particular thing because of maybe your personal subscriptions in life. You know, make sure you're doing the work that you want to do.
Well, we are almost out of time.
Sorry, I'll put it in the comments.
No, you certainly can. I'm going to come to you first right away. What I am going to come around though and ask for final thoughts. So Chef Emily, I will have you start off with adding to that comment too. But if everyone could go around, we have so much to cover on this. We didn't even get to even a quarter of the questions, but I think that speaks to we should do this again. This is a conversation that should certainly continue. There's so much information. I'm going to come around. I will call you out. I will start with you, Chef Emily. If you could give us your final thoughts in about a minute or so, and then also your social media handle as well. We will start with you. So thank you.
Well, I think there was a lot of great information, and just to piggyback on Elle, I was going to say, even if you're not going to market your book, but you're going to market your restaurant and yourself, the news outlets, local news outlets are looking for content as well. And I think it is just as easy and very important during ramp season or a time that you excel. There just happens to be a season where you have a strong point. Use that as a jump off to approach some of the outlets and say, I'll do a news segment for you. They're looking for content, and this is the perfect way to organically market your talents. You can follow me at emilyellen.com, and all my social handles are my name, Emily Ellen, at Emily Ellen. But the best way is to just follow me at emilyellen.com, and I'll put it in the comments. And wow, all the 500 people are so engaged. It's great. So it was an honor to be able to join such a cool group up here on the social panel. So thank you.
Well, thank you as always, and thank you for all the great information and for being such a great friend of ACF. We appreciate it very much. We'll go to Chef Sean.
Got to get unmuted here. So final thoughts. I mean, you know, just write down everything you're doing. Write down every recipe. I write down literally every single move that I'm making in the kitchen nowadays, because I don't want to forget something and, you know, maybe stumble on something amazing. So I'm really writing down everything I can. Also, if you are fortunate enough to actually publish a cookbook, sell as many as you can yourself. Buy as many as you can and sell as many as you can yourself, because that's the only way you're really gonna like see a little bit of money on it. Now, most of us are doing this for the love of it, and that's cool too, but sell as many as you can yourself, because that will help you be able to do another one. But as far as that goes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have been a part of this, and everybody stay safe out there, and let's do this again.
Well, thank you very, very much. Very appreciated. And Chef Gray.
Also had to find my unmute button. I think my final thoughts is just echoing what everyone has said. Inspiration is all around you, and we are all in this because it is what we love to do and it's what we find joy from. So don't take that for granted. In light of everything that's going on in the climate around us, don't forget that there is such joy out there. We love feeding people, which is why most of us got into this. Is we like taking care of people, we like having people in our homes, and we want to give that gift of food to others. So don't forget that, and look outside your window, look inside, pick up an old cookbook that you haven't picked up in, years, to find new inspiration, write it down, keep a folder, keep a tab on your, browser, Instagram, what have you. Go back and look at those things, because especially in moments like this, when it's so hard to remember a lot of why we're doing this, look back at those things that inspire you, because that's what's going to shine through in what you're doing and in your work. Is when you love it and when you're inspired, it's going to show, and that's what's going to resonate with people. But so honored to be here, so honored to talk about what I love to do and what we all love to do, and hopefully everyone can kind of breathe a little bit after just talking and getting some really, really good advice. I myself was taking notes, so I hope everyone enjoyed and got something.
Thank you very much. And Chef Al, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are, don't be afraid to take a chance on yourself. You don't need a bunch of things. You don't need a whole lot of frills to get, meet your goals or do what you want to do. You might not be able to afford a food stylist. You might not be able to afford a very high-end photographer, but what you can do is write really good quality recipes that home cooks can really accomplish at home and feel empowered, right? That's one of the things we really talk about in America's Test Kitchen, is making sure that the home cook feels empowered and proud of the product that they put out. So when you're creating recipes for your book or to share with your friends, just be thinking about how you're really empowering people to feel, feel positive about food experiences. Especially now we're all cooking from home so much more. People want to really have the feeling that they're dining out a little bit, so teaching people how to do good food in a good way is super important. Take a chance on yourself. Don't be afraid of the no's. Rejection is not a big deal. You did, as my friends say, but did you die? If you didn't die, that means you have another chance to, keep trying. And just just believe in yourself. You have everything that you need to get everything that you want. You are born with tools. Thank you for having me on the panel. I really appreciate this. And I'm always happy to share information. I'm at, on Instagram, I'm at L_Simone_Scott. You can also find me at She Chef Inc. Either one. If you have questions, you can DM me. It takes me a little while to get back to you, but I will. I'm also on Facebook at Chef L Simone, maybe Scott, but definitely Chef L Simone on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you so much for all of the inspiration. Very appreciated. And Chef Booker, your final thoughts, please.
Yes, so I would say invest in yourself and invest in your time. Right now, there are tons of free classes and certifications that you can take and receive. I know that ServSafe was offering a free food handler's certificate, which usually is, $30, $50 more if it's Proctor. So look and see what's available free or very low cost and take advantage of this time. A quick trick that I learned as far as selling cookbooks. Every book I sell, and I didn't learn this until the second book, so this is good information for free. For every book you sell, buy another book from a national book outlet, an indie or Barnes & Noble, Amazon, whoever is your jam. And that way they will have to buy another book from your publisher, and that will increase your sales and that will increase your royalties. And I didn't realize that on my first book. So every book you sell, buy another and invest in yourself. become a lifelong learner, continue to learn food styling, you can learn it. I did the food styling on my cookbooks. Even as a chef, it was a big, huge learning curve. I'm sure Melissa L can testify. So take some classes, learn your craft. And you can always find me on my website is chefjenniferhillbooker.com. And for I think Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, it's either Field Peas to Foie Gras or Jennifer Booker. So feel free to shoot me a question. I'll be happy to answer.
All right.
Well, thank you.
I know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight already. I can feel the passion from all of you, and I thank you so much for all of your time. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate all the new ideas too. And I've seen through the chat just how much everyone's enjoyed this and would like to see the conversation continue. For all of the ACF community who are tuning in, we see you, and please know that the ACF applauds you. Please let us know how we can support you. We hope that you'll join us next Wednesday as we will discuss catering and events best practices during our webinar. You can go to wearechefs.com to register for all of the ACF United webinars. And also, please be sure to sign up for the ACF virtual convention Around the World in 80 Plates, which will debut August 3rd through the 5th. There's going to be some amazing demonstrations and food from top chefs from around the globe. So on behalf of ACF and ACF National Office, please be safe. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you all and have a great day. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.